You know Malawi never sleeps when politics is in the air. Hey, my friend, this one is another full-blown drama straight from Capitol Hill to the nation's gossip tables. The ink has barely dried on the swearing-in papers, and already tongues are wagging from Blantyre to Mzuzu about who got what, who's back, and who's warning who. The political ground is shaking again, Nditu. The story: three big names, George Chaponda, Joseph Mwanamvekha, and Alfred Gangata, have stepped right into the center of the new cabinet. And just when people were saying, the DPP days are gone, here comes Professor Peter Mutharika, smiling calmly but warning sharply. Yes, wachita chenjezo. He's sent a message that this time his administration won't play games. Now, this isn't just about positions, it's about strategy, loyalty, and the quiet power behind every handshake. Chaponda, once the country's foreign affairs giant, returns like a man rewriting his own history. Mwanamvekha, the economic technocrat, is back to wrestle Malawi's foreign exchange demons. And Gangata, this one, a businessman turned politician whose rise is as dramatic as a telenovela ending. But don't be fooled, my friend. These appointments aren't just promotions, they're signals. Every name tells a story. Every position sends a message. Mutharika isn't building a team, he is rebuilding a fortress. And if you think that's just talk, wait until we unpack each layer. Because as one seasoned political analyst whispered, in Malawi, a cabinet reshuffle is never just a reshuffle, it's a declaration of war in slow motion. So let's dive in. Fact 1 coming up, and trust me, it's a comeback story that could make even Hollywood jealous. Because when George Chaponda walks back into the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, it's not just diplomacy, it's déjà vu with fireworks.
Malawi, brace yourself, because George Chaponda is back in the corridors of power, and the comeback is louder than the inauguration drums at Kamuzu Palace. The man who once stood at the heart of foreign affairs has been handed the very same portfolio again. For some, it's poetic justice. For others, it's like watching a storm return to the same coastline it once destroyed. But either way, Chaponda is in the building, and that means fireworks are guaranteed. Now, who exactly is Chaponda? If you ask the elders in Thayolo, they'll say, "Uyu ni muntu wa maplan, komantawizina maplan yake amawawa." Translation: he's a man of strategy, but sometimes his strategies sting. Educated abroad, polished in diplomacy, and seasoned in politics, Chaponda has worn many hats in his career. From being Minister of Agriculture to Minister of Foreign Affairs, he's been one of DPP's go-to men when the political temperature rises. But let's not sugarcoat it. His record isn't spotless. The maize gate scandal still haunts his legacy like a stubborn shadow. Remember that 2017 storm? It nearly ended his political life. People were whispering, Chaponda is finished. But Malawi politics, my friend, is not a straight line, it's a circle. If you wait long enough, the same faces reappear. And just like that, Chaponda's star has risen again. This time, brighter or maybe riskier than before. So, what does his return mean for Malawi's diplomacy? Chaponda himself says he's focused on 3 priorities. 1. Strengthening diplomatic ties, both bilateral and multilateral, because in his words, Malawi must speak with one strong voice to the world. 2. Pushing for economic diplomacy, using international relations not just for protocol, but for investment, for jobs, for progress. And 3. Making sure Malawi's image abroad reflects confidence, stability, and hope. Ambitious, yes, but will it work? That's the million kwacha question. Critics say Chaponda's comeback might rattle donors who still remember past controversies. But his supporters argue the man has matured, that he's learned from mistakes and is ready to lead Malawi's rebranding campaign with renewed energy. Let the past be a lesson, not a prison, one DPP supporter shouted outside the swearing-in ceremony. But don't miss the subtext here. Mutharika didn't just bring back Chaponda for nostalgia. No, this is strategic. Chaponda is a loyalist, Nditu, and loyalty is Mutharika's most expensive currency right now. Bringing back trusted old hands signals that Mutharika isn't gambling with strangers. He's rebuilding his army with veterans who already know the battlefield. And there's another twist. Foreign relations are not just about embassies and flags. They are about perception. In appointing Chaponda, Mutharika is saying Malawi's image will be crafted by those who've survived the storms, not by those who've only read about them. It's risky, it's bold, and it's classic Mutharika, unapologetically political. But Malawians are watching with folded arms. One wrong move, and Chaponda's every handshake could be turned into a headline. One misstep, and the whispers will return louder than ever. The stakes are sky high, and the country knows it. Yet, somehow, this feels like a second chance story, like a man trying to finish a sentence he started years ago but never completed. Chaponda's tone this time is calmer, more diplomatic, almost reflective. Maybe he's here not just to serve, but to redeem himself. Maybe this is his redemption arc, his political resurrection. But Malawi being Malawi, redemption doesn't come easy. Every decision he makes will be measured against his past. Every speech will be dissected, and every handshake will be scanned for meaning. Still, as one old saying goes, the same fire that burns also gives light. Maybe, just maybe, Chaponda's fire will light Malawi's path back to diplomatic respect. Or it might just burn bridges faster than they're built. Whatever happens next, it's going to be loud, it's going to be dramatic, and it's going to be classic Chaponda. Because while Chaponda is busy polishing Malawi's image abroad, someone else is being asked to polish Malawi's pocketbook. And that's where Joseph Mwanamvekha enters the frame, calculator in hand and pressure in his eyes.
Malawi's economy, the country's biggest talking point, its loudest headache, and its quietest heartbreak. When Joseph Mwanamvekha walked up to take his oath as Minister of Finance, Economic Development and Planning, you could almost hear the collective sigh ripple through the crowd, part relief, part doubt, part a komazimenezi. You see, Mwanamvekha isn't new to this seat. This isn't his first dance with the numbers. He's been here before, Nditu, during another DPP era when the kwacha was gasping for breath and the Treasury's pockets were thinner than a politician's promise after elections. So why bring him back? Why hand him the calculator again when the economy is wobbling like a minibus on a bad Zamba road? Simple. Experience, trust, and maybe familiarity. Mutharika wanted someone who wouldn't need a tutorial on Malawi's economic chaos. Mwanamvekha knows the playbook. He's been in the meetings where donors frowned, he's balanced budgets that refuse to stay balanced, and he's faced the IMF when the numbers just wouldn't behave. So when the president said, "We must fix the economy," this was the man he believed could do the math, or at least make the math look good. But let's be real. The challenges ahead are brutal. Fuel shortages, forex scarcity, food insecurity, Malawi's holy trinity of headaches. Mwanamvekha knows that if he doesn't get dollars flowing in, Malawi will be one wrong move away from another economic meltdown. During the swearing-in, he said it loud and clear. We must solve the foreign exchange crisis because once we fix forex, we fix half our problems. Foreign exchange, the phrase every Malawian now dreads. No forex means no fuel, no fertilizer, no hospital medicine, no imported goods. It's the chain that links every suffering citizen to every shaky policy decision. And Mwanamvekha's task is to break that chain, not with theory, but with action. He's promised to re-engage traditional donors, attract investors, and push economic diplomacy in partnership with Chaponda's ministry. The idea? To convince the outside world that Malawi is still a safe bet. He said, "We will show that Malawi is ready, open for business, and stable for investment." A nice line, but in Malawi, slogans don't feed families. The street-level reality paints a tougher picture. Inflation is biting, Nitu. Prices of basic goods are rising faster than salaries. People are tired of promises wrapped in speeches. They want results, not rehearsals. Mwanamvekha, therefore, doesn't just have to fix numbers, he has to fix trust. And that's not easy because for many Malawians, his return feels like déjà vu. Kodi, siameneu niamweo anali finance minister kale? What will be different this time? murmured a one-blantyre trader in a viral TikTok clip. It's the skepticism of a nation that's seen too many men with briefcases but too few with solutions. Still, Mwanamvekha carries himself with calm confidence, like a man who's been to the battlefield and lived to tell the tale. He's professional, measured, less talk, more planning. He says his priority is to ensure every Malawian has food on the table. He said, "You cannot go to church or work if you are hungry," echoing a truth every ordinary citizen understands deeply. And maybe that's what gives him a shot. He speaks like someone who understands the urgency. This isn't just about GDPs and growth rates, it's about survival. But politics, my friend, is never kind to realists. Mwanamvekha will be judged not by what he says, but by what the fuel pumps, the bank queues, and the market prices say. If he fails, Mutharika's economic credibility collapses. If he succeeds, even slightly, he becomes the DPP's economic messiah. So, yes, he's walking a tightrope. One slip, and it's a free fall into political obscurity. But if he makes it across, he could reshape Malawi's economic destiny and silence every doubter still whispering from the sidelines. But while Mwanamvekha is counting kwachas and courting investors, there's one man who's counting critics and turning every insult into fuel. A man whose very name sounds like controversy in motion. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the world of Alfred Gangata. Ready for part 4? Fact 3. Alfred Gangata's rise.
Now, here comes Alfred Gangata, the man everyone's talking about, arguing about, or secretly Googling at 2 a.m. Because let's face it, his rise is one of those political plots that feels too wild to be real. Gangata is no quiet technocrat. He's fire, flair, and full-blown controversy all in one frame. From business to politics to cabinet, basi uyu ndi mtu wa ma headlines. You might remember him from his business escapades before politics. To many Malawians, he was the face of hustle, a man who built his way up, sometimes through sweat, sometimes through smoke, depending on who you ask. But now, as Minister of State, working directly under the President's office, Gangata is playing in a league where every step echoes. And let's not pretend this appointment didn't raise eyebrows. Oh, it did. The moment Mutharika announced Gangata's new role, social media went up in flames. Memes, debates, radio call-ins. Malawi was buzzing louder than a generator at Eskom blackout hour. People shouted, how can a man with court cases, controversies, and whispers around his credentials rise to this level? But that's the thing about Gangata. Controversy doesn't crush him, it fuels him. He's been accused of forging an MSCE certificate, of having someone else write his exams, of manipulating business documents. Yet somehow he keeps bouncing back, Nditu, like a cat with 9 political lives. In one interview, when asked about the critics questioning his credibility, Gangata chuckled and said, "They don't know me. Let them be like Thomas. They will believe when they see." That line alone went viral. It captured who he is, defiant, dramatic, and daring. To Mutharika, that defiance is probably an asset, because Gangata doesn't bow easily. He's loyal to the bone and unafraid to speak his mind. 2 traits the president values in his close circle. Appointing him as Minister of State sends a very loud signal. Mutharika rewards loyalty, not perfection. And to the DPP faithful, that's inspiring. But to critics, it's a red flag waving in broad daylight. Now, here's where things get deeper. The Ministry of State isn't just any post, it's the nerve center. It connects directly to the president's agenda, acts as a policy enforcer, and often operates behind the curtain. Meaning, Gangata isn't just sitting in an office, he's sitting at the heart of power. And that makes this appointment both bold and dangerous. Bold because it gives him a chance to prove his worth. Dangerous because any mistake, any whiff of scandal will not just burn him, it will burn the president's image too. Mutharika knows this. He's betting that Gangata's drive will outweigh his baggage. But that's a high-stakes bet in a country where one headline can ruin a reputation overnight.
Still, there's something undeniably magnetic about Gangata's rise. He represents the Malawian dream in its rawest form, the idea that no matter your background, you can climb if you're persistent enough, loud enough, or loyal enough. To some, he's a symbol of hustle, to others of hubris, but whichever side you stand on, one thing's clear: you can't ignore him. On the streets of Lilongwe, the sentiment is split. Gangata akoza kuchita mbwino, ngati atasinta, meaning Gangata can do well if he changes. Others just laugh and say, change, yeah, that man is built different. But maybe that's exactly why Mutharika likes him. Gangata's not trying to blend in, he's trying to shake the table. And whether you love him or hate him, you'll be talking about him. In politics, that's power. So, while critics keep counting his flaws, Gangata is counting opportunities. He's turning every insult into motivation. And if he plays it smart, he might just surprise everyone. Maybe even himself. But even as Gangata basks in his newfound power, there's one man making sure nobody gets too comfortable. Because when Peter Mutharika starts warning his ministers, the whole nation sits up straight. Let's talk about the president's warnings. Sharp, direct, and very, very deliberate.
And now, let's talk about the man behind the curtain, the professor himself, Arthur Peter Mutharika. The man whose calm voice can either comfort a nation or send a chill straight through the corridors of power. The man who, at 85, has returned not just to lead, but to warn. When Mutharika stood before his newly sworn-in ministers, his tone wasn't all smiles and handshakes. It was sharp, precise, and loaded with meaning. You could feel the tension in the room, even through the TV screens. He looked at his cabinet and said, in that firm, fatherly tone, "I don't want laziness, I don't want corruption, and I don't want excuses." And just like that, silence fell. Ministers nodded, but you could almost hear their thoughts. He means business this time. You see, Mutharika has been here before. He's tested power, lost it, and fought his way back. That kind of comeback doesn't happen by luck. It happens when you learn who to trust, who to fire, and who to watch closely. So these warnings weren't random. They were strategic. He warned his ministers to deliver, not just decorate the offices. He warned permanent secretaries to serve the people, not themselves. And most strikingly, he hinted that anyone caught in corruption this time will face the consequences. Not might, will. In Malawi's political language, that's code for cross me and you are done. Now, some say this is Mutharika 2.0, more mature, more ruthless, less tolerant of nonsense. Others whisper that it's all performance, a show of strength to reassert control over a party known for internal chaos. But whether genuine or strategic, one thing is undeniable. Mutharika wants discipline, and he wants it publicly displayed. The president's warning wasn't just to his ministers. It was to the whole system, from civil servants to party loyalists. He mentioned that government must cut down on endless meetings, embrace technology, and stop wasting time and money on bureaucracy. He said, "We are in a digital world. We can't behave like it's 1974. Hey, Nditu, that line hit hard. Because deep down, every Malawian knows the pain of watching files gather dust while problems grow mold. Mutharika is saying, enough. But don't mistake his calm for softness. Behind that professor's smile is a man known for holding grudges and enforcing loyalty with surgical precision. Remember, this is the same Mutharika who once said, politics is not for the faint-hearted, it's for the prepared. So when he warns, people listen and some tremble. Now, let's connect the dots. Chaponda, Mwanamvekha, Ganga, all loyalists, all controversial in their own way, and all brought together under a leader who's demanding loyalty, discipline, and obedience. It's not a cabinet, it's a test,
a loyalty test. Analysts are calling it the return of the DPP headliners. They believe Mutharika is tightening his circle, not for unity, but for control. He's sending a message that he's not here to negotiate with critics or play coalition games. He's here to restore what he calls the dignity and direction of Malawi. But critics warn that this tone could backfire. Too much control can suffocate innovation. Too much fear can paralyze progress. The same firmness that keeps ministers in line can also silence voices that dare to challenge inefficiency. Still, for ordinary Malawians, the message is simple. They want results. They don't care who's in office, as long as fuel flows, food prices drop, and the kwacha stabilizes. Mutharika knows this. That's why his warnings sound less like threats and more like desperate vows. He's leading with the agency of a man who knows time is short and history is waiting. And that's the energy shaping this new Malawi. Serious, unpredictable, and loaded with ambition. So my friend, the pieces are on the board. Chaponda polishing our image. Mwanamvekha chasing the forex ghosts. Ganga shaking the system. And Mutharika holding the leash tight. But the real question is, will this team rewrite Malawi's story or just remix the old tune? Malawi, what a chapter we're entering. Politics here is never just about titles. It's about the soul of the nation. And right now, that soul is being tested. We've seen familiar faces rise again. Some for redemption, some for revenge, some maybe just for relevance. We've seen a president draw lines in the sand and dare his team to cross them. We've heard big promises about discipline, economic revival, and foreign diplomacy. But as we all know, words are the cheapest currency in politics. Action is the only one that counts. So what do you think? Will Chaponda finally rewrite his legacy? Will Mwanamvekha's calculators bring miracles to the markets? Will Ganga surprise his doubters or prove them right? And will Mutharika truly rule with justice, not just control? Drop your thoughts below, Nditu. I want to hear from you. Tell me who you trust, who you doubt, and who you think is just waiting for their next scandal. Because here at Global Pulse News, we don't just report. We dissect, debate, and decode what others skip. If you love honest talk, no sugarcoating, and real Malawian rhythm in the storytelling, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring that bell. Because the political season is just beginning. And believe me, there's more drama loading than a TNM airtime top-up on payday. Until next time, stay alert, stay informed, and never stop asking questions. Because in Malawi, every cabinet post has the story, and every story deserves a spotlight. I'm signing out. This is Global Pulse News, your eyes and ears on the ground, reminding you that in politics, the truth may bend, but it never breaks. Zikomo kwa mbili Malawi, see you in the next one.